Hello and welcome to a new episode of $1,000 Car Guy. This episode is going to be a little bit different because it kind of jumps around. I never intended to film the project in the way that you're about to see, so that meant that I had to go back in time and kind of alter some things to make more sense. So you're going to see me pop in and out of this video in this manner to better explain some things. So the first thing we're going to go into is where to acquire all of the rare parts you need in order to build a manual all-wheel drive G Body. This was by far the hardest piece to find. The reason being that it has a manual transmission. Now I'm sure you're thinking, well, I've seen manual transmission Blazers and S10s before, what's the big deal? This is a 4x4, so that means that the tail shaft coming out of the back of the NV3500 is different than it would be from a two-wheel drive. While searching for S10s and Blazers, it took me over 6 months to find one that was within my price range. Usually I found ones that were blown up for 900 bucks. We scored this one for $400. Not only that, but I've already sold it. So get this, we bought the car for $400, I sold one trim bezel piece for $75 and the rest of the truck for $300, which means we paid a total of $25 for our NV3500 extremely rare transmission. I ended up buying this car about 40 miles south of me and I drove it back with rod knock because all I had to do was be able to make it back home and then I could pull out the transmission and sell it. But as you can see, it's still here. Now we have actually sold the vehicle, but the buyer is giving me time to pull out the transmission, which we're doing now.
Monte. Yeah, no, once it's out, it's not that bad. It's not. It's just getting it down to your chest.
So, in order to buy one of Leon's cars for the next part of this project, I had to acquire this Jeep, which we picked up for 300 bucks, and then we sold it for 600 bucks. The 600 bucks will then buy this. This is a 2000 Oldsmobile Bravada. They are factory all-wheel drive, 4.6 liters, using the basic LS bolt pattern. This is what we're going to be using for our chassis. But before we move it into its final resting place, we gotta take all Leon's junk out of it. So now that that's all done, let's go ahead and tow this beast to its new final resting spot. So we just moved the Bravada, and there's a small chance, like teeny tiny, insignificant, microscopic chance that the S10 might leak some oil. Just a tiny bit. Just like you wouldn't even ever notice that it was gone type of bit. Damn. Now it's time to take off all the body mounts and lift the chassis off of the frame.
Hey, look, there's the plug.
Boy, that works so well.
Right?
Ooh, it looks easier to cut up there.
Well, you're right about that.
I got beans, greens, tomatoes. I learned this move from the junkyard. There's nothing holding us back now! Was that on camera? Yeah. Oh.
I'll take your stops.
Alright.
Red! Haven't seen you in a while. You're just a good ass dog. The next thing you need to do is separate the engine and transmission from the all-wheel drive transfer case in your Bravada. Now, this is where everything that's critical has to work, otherwise extreme modification is required. So this is a 4L60E trans, made it up to an all-wheel drive transfer case. Now, this seems to be almost identical to the transfer case that came out of the Blazer, except it has this extra coupler to make up the difference between the shaft length or the transmission length between a four-wheel drive and a non-four-wheel drive transmission. I hope that makes sense. Basically, if you have a standard length automatic 4L60, you can mate it to an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive trans, but this is the adapter. I don't know if this will work with the manual transmissions. I know it won't, but like, for instance, perhaps an NV3500 two-wheel drive, maybe this will be able to mate it to an all-wheel drive system. Here's the reason why. This is a four-wheel drive transfer case that came out of my Chevy Blazer, year 2000. This is a manual transmission that came out mated to the exact same thing. Now, this bolt pattern going around is supposed to be the same as this inner bolt pattern going around. It looks almost identical. We're going to find out in a minute if it mates up. This, however, is like an adapter piece to mate the automatic transmission to it, but I think what it does is it adds this much length to that transmission, whereas that transmission already has that extra length in it. We're going to find out in a minute. So the good news is everything bolted up exactly like it should. I have it spaced up a little bit because the front axle was spinning and hitting the casing of the transmission. But there is actually a little notch out for it, which is great. So everything worked the way it's supposed to. This is my 1984 Monte Carlo. This is the whole point that you're here. It used to be complete when we started. And the first thing I did was pull off the whole front end. I was being a little baby about pulling the body mounts because I didn't want to do what's happening right now. And then Leon from Leon's Garage Adventures showed up and he did all the work.
I broke everything. Well, I broke some of the bolts, but hey, whatever.
If you want to make a ham sandwich, you got to break a few eggs.
Ooh, that sounds delicious. Ham and eggs.
So, as you can see, the body is lifted off the frame. Got a couple blocks holding it in. We're being real sneaky about this. Here's the whole bravado frame. Planning on cutting it. Maybe we can start here, or should we just go for the gusto?
We'll start back
and work our way forward. So we're gonna cut it here.
If we cut it right here, then we can just slide the whole thing and see how the transmission and everything's gonna fit in it.
Right.
I know that that frame sits lower because it's shorter,
yes, and
also tucks up behind the rocker. So we're gonna have to cut the top couple inches off, box it, plate it, and see what happens.
Well, we're also gonna throw the other tires on it.
Yeah.
So it'll be a lot lower to the ground.
Yep.
So the plan is to cut it right behind the firewall. Right about here, behind where the front body mount is. And then we're gonna slide the bravado frame right up to that same point and hopefully reuse or create some new front mounts for it. So the front section with the differential and everything will be bolted into the Monte Carlo, and then the back will be all welded and plated in place.
No.
God damn it.
No, because, okay, so this mount here actually needs to go forward like 2 inches to line up. So we're gonna have to cut this mount off, and then we'll just reposition, make a mount later.
Oh, I was gonna say,
yeah, we're pretty much.
let's just slide this whole thing forward then.
Yeah.
Well, this front end is way short compared to that.
Okay. But we need the tires to line up where they're supposed to be.
I keep
so
forgetting.
We can't go too far.
I keep forgetting, and everybody at home, it's like this distance. So this distance to this distance is shorter than what it is on the Monte Carlo, but this distance to this distance is different than it is on the Monte Carlo. So it's not apples to apples; it's apples to grapefruit.
Yeah. So pretty much the motor mount's pretty close to the center of the wheel. I mean, it's like maybe an inch, if that.
Yeah.
So most of the measurements that I'm doing are off of the motor mounts to kind of judge where everything's going to land. The only problem I really see, like I told Andrew, the transfer case, we might have to cut some of the floor, and it's right where the front seat is, right where the front bracket to the seat is, so we might have to make a front bracket or steel tracks off like a four-wheel drive truck or something, I don't know.
Alright, so we're going to the store right now. We're going to get some Sawzall blades and start cutting.
Yeah, let's do it.
As you can see, we got the Monte Carlo frame chopped off right behind the firewall. Here we've got the rest of the Monte Carlo. We do need to switch the rims over. We'll do that in a little bit. Now, it's time to try and slide the whole front half of this up to the Monte Carlo. And it is way heavier.
Oh yeah, we should have took the trans out.
Yep.
It's too late, let's do it.
Nice and slow.
Good thing this is a Monte, right? Here, let me go first, real quick, so I can get it back over. Alright, go ahead. I'm pushing way too fast, but boy, I gotta get back over. Alright. Go ahead.
Oh, you're talking about that inner piece of plastic we're about to
Yeah, but it's real flexible. Push. Push, push. Push, push. Oh. Something in the back. Yeah, flashlight.
that trans number.
It is. But we're actually really close. Like,
Remember where these used to be?
yeah, we gotta go back a couple inches.
Yeah.
We gotta take that trans cross member out. I wish somebody would have done that before this. Like Andrew mentioned, 25 times. I almost said 25 fucking times.
So as you can see, the two frame rails are butted right up against each other. We didn't pull them out or do anything. Between the Monte Carlo's frame, it's about 1/8 of an inch wider than the outside dimension of the Bravada frame. So it literally slides in between the others. It's almost like GM designed this to happen from 1984 to 2000. I know that's stupid to say, but if you do this, you'll see the exact same thing.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's like, it's so close. It literally just touches on both sides. Ah. So basically all we're gonna do is, oh wait, did we already talk about it?
It's
About, we're gonna box the frame. Oh shit.
well, that's the next clip.
Oh, okay. Ooh, motherfucker.
In this scene, you can see that we cut off the top half of the Bravada frame, which is now the innermost frame in this assembly. And what's happening is we're tacking one side to the existing Monte Carlo frame. So like you just grind that off and then tack it together. And then we made some templates out of some cardboard and cut it out of a piece of like, I don't know, 3/16 inch steel plate. Mocked it up, sat it right on top, and then welded it flush to the Monte Carlo's upper piece of the frame so that it's all one level going across.
Alright, now for the part I can't see.
So that last part you saw was the plate going on top and being welded together. We then went ahead and welded the entire seam, but as you saw, the open end of the Monte Carlo frame was still exposed. So what we'll be doing in the next episode is triangulating that back into the existing frame, plating everything together, welding it all the way around, and then painting it to keep it from rusting. That's going to end this first episode. Obviously we have a ways to go, but we've already got two chassis welded together. So technically it is now an all-wheel drive Monte Carlo. I'm going to put a clip right now showing the fender back on the car. So as you can see, it's going to look exactly like a stock Monte Carlo SS on the outside. This should be the same for almost any G body as long as it's a two-door. This is the 108-inch wheelbase that we started with. One final piece for this video. I'm sure a lot of you saw the Hoonigan all-wheel drive Cutlass that they had on their show. Amazing, spectacular build. My hat is off to that gentleman for his fabrication skills, especially with his bodywork. When we started building this car, I didn't know he used the Bravada frame. It's literally exactly like his build. It was never my intention. I just wanted to put that out there now for everyone that's going to comment that we're just ripping off the idea. Mine is a little different because we're using the NV3500 and it's going to be a manual transmission for the build. So we're still going to do all the new clutch assembly and hydraulic stuff for that. It should be very interesting when we get to that point. But I just wanted to state that this is not intended to rip off or take away from the other build. That is a spectacular example of what skill, money, fabrication abilities can do for a project. This is the low buck build. We ended up selling the Bravada for even more money. So I know in the beginning I said it was $25. It ended up being completely free to us, so we got a free transmission. I bought my Monte Carlo for $400 because it didn't have an engine or a transmission. Perfect, and as you can see it has a little bit of rust. The Bravada we bought for $300 because we did the old swap-a-roo. So right now I've got $700 in this build. That's going to wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more up-to-date information, please hit the like and subscribe so you can follow along. Make sure to hit the little bell icon, that way it immediately sends you something. If you'd like to see more up-to-date stuff beyond that, you can follow me on Instagram at $1000carguy, all one word. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next episode. Alright. Yeah!
Hey, motherfucker.
That's basically as well as it could have gone.
How to pack a whole Bravada
In the size of an Echo. Nice.
You did good. You ready? Someone put a sticker over the hitch.
And that's what was keeping it all in. Yeah, put the goo back in there. Perfect.
Oh my god. Well, if I didn't need a winch before.
Classic Harbor Freight.
Scrapyard's getting that.
My goo! Ugh.